Hey everyone, Gill Gross here, post-match, Hubert Hurkacz versus Grigor Dimitrov, Indian Wells 2021 quarterfinal. If you're not here for spoilers, click off the video in 3, 2, 1. Dimitrov through to his first Masters 1000 semifinal since 2019 with another brilliant comeback performance and a victory over Hubert Hurkacz after dropping the first set, winning in a final set tiebreak by a score of 7-2. He moves on to the semifinals. This was a great match. I was really enjoying this one throughout. Deserved a better ending. I'll cut to the chase there and just say, Hurkacz, it looked like he was hitting an open stance sliding backhand and he injured himself. He was already down a mini break there, and I think it was already like 4-2, but he injured himself mid-rally there, and he did not win another point in the tiebreak, and he was injured, not getting juice on the serve, making unforced errors because he didn't want to rally, and it was just a disappointing way to end this awesome match that was so great. Sad, but also, again, really happy for Grigor because it has been, as I pointed out in my last post-match video with his win over Medvedev, a really unfortunate last couple of years for Grigor. As I mentioned, first time since 2019 that he's in a Masters 1000 semifinal. But this match breaks down in a pretty straightforward way. Grigor was dominating the rallies. He was owning the baseline. He was outclassing Hubert Hurkacz in these rallies. But he was getting outserved. He was getting outserved really badly. And it was just a matter of if that was going to be enough, if the first serve, which was the best weapon on the court for Hurkacz, if that was going to be enough to propel him for victory, or were there going to be enough rallies where Dimitrov would be able to kind of use his advantage if the match was positioned that way. And just to give you an idea here, Hurkacz was getting a first serve, a free point rate, an unreturned rate of about 50%, and Dimitrov was between 11 and 12%. And the average miles per hour was like 15 miles per hour difference in first serve speed. That's just the big kind of deficit that Dimitrov needs to make up when they play. Meanwhile, Hurkacz is a great baseliner. It's a similar kind of deal when you play a guy like Daniil Medvedev. But once again, Hurkacz didn't quite make enough first serves, especially under pressure in the third set, to really use his biggest weapon and the biggest weapon on the court in that match, the Hurkacz first serve. And instead, they played a lot of rallies. They played the majority of points in this match were over 5 shots. The way it breaks down is this. You had Hurkacz winning points 0 through 4 shots, 59-41. And I think that just comes down to, again, free points on serve. 59-41 because Hurkacz was serving way better and just getting the better of the serve return dynamic as a whole. 5+ shot rallies, 57-41 for Dimitrov. So the match was so simple in this respect. It was Hurkacz's first serve going to carry him or not? Or was Dimitrov going to get in those rallies where he was getting the better of play? Let's talk about the rallies. Obviously, that's how it played out in the end. Hurkacz, again, was not serving at a high percentage. I don't think his first serve was particularly clutch, and as a result, Dimitrov did win those big points. And despite not being able to serve out the third set, which he had a chance to do, was better under pressure. Hurkacz served first serve percentage 60% in this match. But let's talk about these baseline rallies. And let's just talk about Grigor Dimitrov. God, he's playing well right now. He is playing so well. And I just love the decisiveness that he's playing with on his forehand. And I think that is probably the biggest factor here. I would break down the reason why Dimitrov dominated the baseline points into three factors. Finishing, speed, and heart, effort. And I'll go one by one here. But first, finishing. I do think it's the most important part. The forehand is the finishing shot here. If we're going to be in a match on slow courts where the serve on Dimitrov's serve, it's not making much of a dent. Hurkacz is getting it back, and Hurkacz is hitting a lot of second serves, so they're playing a lot of rallies. If they're going to play a lot of neutral baseline rallies, the forehand is going to be key in terms of creating offense and swinging the point in your favor. Any point that doesn't result in an unforced error, it's probably going to result in a forehand taking control of the point. These backhands aren't going to do much. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Gill, Hurkacz has a great backhand. Hubie's backhand is great. I got that. But newsflash, on a slow court like this, he can't win points off his backhand. It's not big enough. And Dimitrov certainly can't win points off of his backhand. We can talk about the slice and how it's a great weapon in terms of maybe trying to draw some errors. Maybe, I guess it drew some. I don't think a lot, not as much as it did against Medvedev. We can talk about how it affects Hurkacz's court position and makes him uncomfortable and pulls him inside the court. Sure, we can talk about those things. But at the end of the day, you're not winning points with your backhand. You're winning points with your forehand on a court this slow. And if we go to the stroke summary here and I break down these stats, that tells the story. On the backhand, Hurkacz did not hit a winner. He hit 5 forcing shots. Dimitrov hit 1 winner and hit 5 forcing shots. Backhand's out of play here. This is about how big are these forehands and how good are these forehands at finishing and generating. And Dimitrov's has been so good in this tournament and so good in this match, hitting 4 winners, 20 forcing shots, and 8 unforced errors. So I don't care if it's a winner or if it's a forcing shot. Forget that. The point is you win the point on that shot. So 24 finishes, 8 unforced errors. Now let's go to Hurkacz. Hurkacz hits 4 winners, 10 forcing shots. So he finishes 14 times, and he hits 12 unforced errors. That forehand is not a good enough weapon in these neutral rallies for Hurkacz. It's not. Now, he's very good at hitting an approach shot and volleying. That's what Hurkacz is good at. But he did not go to that enough under pressure like he did when he was doing great at Wimbledon. He did not go to that enough under pressure for that to play a real factor in the big points. And for some reason, I mean, it's not that he didn't go to net a lot in the third set. He did. I think over 10 times, maybe about 12 times or something like that. But it was a long set. But that's not what he was doing at Wimbledon, coming in at over and over and over again. And I don't know if that was because of fatigue. I think there was fatigue becoming a factor here. But the point was Dimitrov's forehand, firing, weapon, deadly, finishing points. Dimitrov going to net after the first set, a ton, by the way, just to aid his finishing abilities. And let's see, net points. Let's see, net points. Dimitrov up at net 23 times in the match. Hurkacz up at the net 31 times in the match. Not a huge difference there. And that was after Dimitrov didn't go to the net at all in the first set. So after that adjustment, very close. But Dimitrov's forehand, way bigger. So he's the better finisher. What about speed? I think Dimitrov's speed forced a lot of errors by Hurkacz. And Hurkacz was, again, staying back too much, trying to shrink those margins in a couple of big spots, mostly in the third set, and Dimitrov's speed creating a lot of unforced errors by Hurkacz. And how do I know that it was Dimitrov's speed and not just Hurkacz missing? Because he's missing by tiny margins. And if a player misses by tiny margins, it means their target was small, generally speaking, especially if the footwork is right and the contact point is right and they still miss. Dimitrov's speed continues to be a big problem for in this tournament. It was for Medvedev and now it was for Hurkacz, who, by the way, just play very similar styles, and the match was very similar in general. When I was talking about the Medvedev match, I was also talking about the first serve and how that was a big weapon and how Medvedev didn't make a high percentage. And luckily for Dimitrov, it was the same thing here. But again, trouble finishing, 2 players who don't have the biggest ground strokes when it comes to pace generation, and Dimitrov super speedy, and these Indian Wells courts are very slow. But one of the biggest differences that I saw as the match went on is the third category of why Dimitrov was dominating the baseline rallies, which is, I thought, pure grit, pure suffering. Hurkacz, when he was fresh in this match, was more patient. And Dimitrov, I think, was very tired in the third set. And guess what? Pure heart. Right here, he stayed patient, and I think his legs were burning and hurting, and he never tried to force the issue because he was tired, and I just don't know why. Maybe it wasn't because Hurkacz was tired. Maybe it was pressure. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was tactical. I don't think so, but I'm just throwing out the idea that it could have been. Hurkacz got less and less patient as this match went on, and I just think I think it was fatigue. That would be my theory. I can't know that because I'm not Hubie, but I think it was fatigue, and he just didn't fight through it as well as Dimitrov. They were both tired out there, and it became a matter of who was going to manage it better. Dimitrov hung in there tough, and as a result, he was the patient Grigor Dimitrov that we've become accustomed to seeing throughout this tournament. And Hurkacz was not coming forward enough and forcing the issue from the baseline where he's not really comfortable forcing the issue from. And again, missing into small targets, not quite as disciplined as he was in the first two sets when he had positive winners to unforced error ratios. And in the third set, that ratio suddenly turns negative because I just think he got less disciplined and he started going for more and missing more. So there you have it. Dimitrov dominates the rallies here. And in general, I have never seen Grigor strike the balance so perfectly of sustained aggression on the forehand. I've never seen him attack with his forehand so consistently and comfortably. And it's not easy to do on this court either, but it's a key on this court. If you're going to be playing rally after rally after rally, I mean, think about the hundreds and hundreds of forehands you're going to hit throughout this match, and that's going to be your moneymaker, more likely than not. If you're Dominic Thiem or Stan Wawrinka, then maybe you're winning points on your backhand on a slow court like this. But, man, in men's tennis, the way these guys hit their backhands, you're either doing damage off that forehand or you're not. And it's been really good for Dimitrov, just controlling play with those attacking offensive forehands, and it is something that has not been a constant in his career. Sometimes the forehand has been indecisive, underpowered, inconsistent, all of those things, and right now it's just perfect. So let's see if Grigor keeps it up. He's going to have a very different opponent in the next round. So let's see what happens. Let me just double check that because I'm not, I just want to, I'm just second guessing myself here. Yeah, it is Norrie. I just wanted to make sure that that was indeed the semifinal. So Cam Norrie, a completely different opponent in the semifinal, and we will see how that goes. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.